All right, well, Adam, the Buffs had their first practice in pads, the first and only time before the spring game that we can actually watch them. So it was kind of fun to actually be out here and in the indoor facility and watch these guys actually play some football. And cool that it was on a day that they actually got to put on the pads and hit. So what were your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's nice to get in here. And yeah, the third day of spring ball, you're not going to see anything alarming or that's dramatic. But you see little things like Dmitri Stanley clearly is their number one option at slot receiver.
Yeah.
Just a fluid athlete. We saw a little bit of him last year. Just to be in here and see that Kerry Cush has got a legit chance to win a starting job at offensive guard, and just little personnel things. Trey Udofia looks like he's going to be working at safety now. He's put on some good weight in his lower body. So different little tidbits that you get that it really helps you do your job for sure.
Yeah, and a guy like Trey that has been up and down at corner, maybe he's a better fit at safety. So it's interesting seeing things like that. Davion Taylor obviously working at safety and kind of that similar buff back type of thing that he did last year, but he's working more with the DBs. So boy, I like him though. He's quite the athlete, isn't he?
He really is, and I talked to him earlier this week, and there was the excuse that this kid had not played a lot of football. He didn't play in any, I think, one game in high school.
Yeah.
Had to walk on a JUCO. He said that's not an excuse for him anymore. So you really seen him kind of take the next step. It's fun to see the transformation of certain guys from last year to this year. You talked to one of them, William Sherman.
Right.
If you saw him last year in pads and this year in pads, you would not recognize that they're the same person. It's really incredible. I don't know if anybody's had the transformation that he's had.
Yeah, in fact, I asked him, what he was up to. He's up to 305 to 310 right now. And he last year at this time he said he was around 275 and was playing around that last year. So when he arrived here on campus, he was 250. So he's up solidly over 300 pounds right now, and he looks like it. And he's growing into that body. He said that by now he feels like it's more comfortable now. Run blocking is way easier for him, and really it was just kind of after a game last year, he's like, I got to change. This is not working. I mean, he said against Nebraska and USC both times, he's just like, I can't play like this, and I've got to get better. And he looks a lot better. And you talked to another tackle as well.
Yeah, well, going back to Will Sherman, there was a time he was standing in front of me and I couldn't see the action. That's how big he's gotten.
Right. Whereas when he first got here, you wondered, boy, is he ever going to be a guy? Is he ever going to grow into that guy? But
I talked to Frank Phillip. We heard rumors that he was not going to be with his football team in 2019, and he said, look, I was recruited here by Mike McIntyre and Clayton Adams, and it's kind of like going through the adoption process. A new staff comes in, and he said once he got to know Chris Kapilovich, the new offensive line coach, and I think you start to miss football pretty quickly when it's been part of your life for so long. And he's all in now. Yeah. And he's working at both left tackle, right tackle. I know Arlington Hambright's coming in as a grad transfer, but the biggest issue with this program right now is depth in certain spots. You see their first unit offensively and defensively. You like what Mel Tucker inherits. You need some guys to fill in some of the depth, and even if Frank Phillip doesn't necessarily start this year, they're going to need him in 2019. And he's got Arlington Hambright has 1 year of eligibility. You're going to need Frank Phillip, and he's got a chance to potentially develop into an NFL guy.
And Frank's got a chance that if let's say Sherman and Hambright come in and are the tackles, and ideally they play all year, Phillip's got a chance. Maybe he redshirts and has 3 years left. He's a guy you want on board, and he still looks the part. I mean, lower body maybe needs some work, but upper body, he's definitely there. Any other thoughts offensively from anybody you saw today?
This is the third analysis video now in 3 practices in that we talk about the running back position. Mel Tucker talks about it being an open competition, and you really see that. And not to just throw a bunch of Kool-Aid out there to fans, but they're going to be okay at running back. We saw glimpses out of all those guys in practice today. The question is the blocking going to be there? Because they have guys, Jarek Broussard, he's got some get up to him. He's got some explosiveness. Alex Fontenot, who's kind of an afterthought when we talked about the running backs, he's probably maybe the front runner to win the starting job. And again, it's going to be more of a committee. It's not going to be a guy getting the ball 25 carries a game. But Deion Smith, another guy that has some wheels in there. You talked about Bo Bishrat the other day. They've got bodies there. Jaron Mangum. They're going to be okay at running back. They're not going to have a 1,000-yard rusher there, but they're going to be okay. Yeah,
and I almost think that once he gets comfortable with everything, that Mangum ends up being the guy. But we'll see. I mean, I like him as well. Tight end wise, I talked to Jalen Harris. That dude is a big dude. We talk about Will Sherman being a big dude. Jalen Harris is a big guy. He and Darian Jones, and we talked about him last year, but those are big dudes. And Brady Russell played the position pretty well last year. these guys are way bigger than him. I mean, it's a different type of tight end here, and we'll see if they can catch. But Jalen Harris comes in here with experience, and they line them out, they split them out a little bit at tight end, and it'll be interesting to see how they use those guys. But they're going to throw to him.
And Jalen Harris comes in here, and he's leading guys. You see him after practice. He takes Nuamutu Follow out to the field, and they're doing extra stuff. We kind of question where the leader is going to come from on this football team.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of them on this football team. I had a chance to chat with him briefly too, and he said, "You guys looked at me, and I played in the SEC at Auburn and had a lot of success. I can be a natural leader because of where I came from." And so, I mean, again, another guy, you walk into the practice field, and within the first 5 minutes, you're like, wow, that's a man right there.
Yeah. Real quick, we have to, when we're talking offense, we got to go quarterback real quick. But Steven Montez looked pretty good running the 2-minute drill, brought the team down and kicked a field goal there. But at the end of practice, actually, heard Mel Tucker walk by Steve and say, "Hey, I was proud of you today." So that's a good sign.
Yeah, and Tucker talked about he likes his confidence, the fact that he does have that it factor. I know at times his leadership's been questioned, but out here his moxie's never been questioned. He's always had that.
Yeah.
And just going off that, I mean, there's no question, unless he gets hurt, Steven Montez is this team's starting quarterback, right?
Right, yeah.
It was interesting to me. Another takeaway I had is, there's a clean slate for these guys, but the first team, offense and defense, is not a whole lot different than it would have looked if Mike McIntyre had been retained here.
Right. And I thought another interesting thing, again, it's just one practice, but that first team offensive line today, I know it'll change as guys come in here, but it didn't change throughout practice. And they're kind of running with keeping units together right now. They're not mixing and matching. I didn't see a whole lot of that.
Yeah, no, again, going back to Kerry Cush, he's getting a lot of reps right now out there.
Yeah. And Jack Shutak at right tackle.
Yep. So it's not set, obviously, now, but it's clear that talent is talent, and no matter who the coaching staff is, they're going to identify those guys.
So real quick, defense, anybody stand out for you there?
Defensively, I mean, Nate Landman, every time the pads come on, you're really impressed with him. I like what you see up front from that starting group. Obviously, Mustafa Johnson. Jalen Sammy definitely looks the part in there, and Terrence Lang looks like he's continued to take another step. When the second-team defense comes in, though, there is a big drop-off in there. And I know there's reinforcements coming in with some JUCO guys, but
which is why there's reinforcements coming in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a concern there. Hassan Hippolyte, limited right now. He's in a blue jersey, so that kind of hurts. Aaron Maddox as well. So getting those guys back will be big, but I think you might see at times in this new defense where there's only one safety out there, and you've got kind of that hybrid with Davion Taylor out there. Yeah,
chatted briefly with Delrick Abrams as well, and he's really liking it and loves the coaching style so far, and he's healthy. He obviously was banged up a little bit last year. He said he's feeling a lot better this year, and he's a guy that has a chance to be their top corner and lead the way there. Chris Miller obviously not participating this spring, so Delrick's got to have a good spring. So defense, I think we'll see more of that. There were some good things we saw out here. There was an interception today by Ronnie Blackman, actually, on a tip pass. They forced a fumble on Jared Broussard, actually. Broussard had a nice long run, but then coughed up the ball. So defense made a couple plays out there today.
Yeah, one other thing I mentioned that I talked to Dmitri Stanley. He's kind of emerged as the top slot guy.
Yeah.
He's also out there returning punts, fielding punts in practice. And we know what his father, Walter Stanley, did as a returner, and Dmitri said he's been picking his dad's brain for tips there, and so I think he'd be pretty exciting to watch back there as a returner.
One other quick thing, I just real briefly chatted with James Stefano, and he mentioned today that he did some live field goals. That was the first time since the ASU game last year he's kicked a live field goal. He was estimating, I don't know if that's exactly right, but it's been a long time. He said he felt really good and he's healthy, so that's a good thing as well.
And Brian Cabral in the house giving a speech to the team in true Brian Cabral fashion. There's a lot of fire behind what he told the players.
You couldn't hear anything from that huddle except for when Brian Cabral spoke up, and you knew Brian Cabral was speaking. So overall, I guess, we can throw out all the Kool-Aid or whatever. I thought it was a nice spirited practice. Saw some good things, and obviously some things that you got to work on. But overall, I thought it was a fun experience out here.
Yep, and now spring break, and you hope these kids make smart decisions that are on the football team, and everybody that was in practice today is here when we get back here in about 10 days.
Yeah, and then we'll see him again on April 27th along with everybody else. So we're going to take a spring break as well. We'll be back here in about 10 days to talk about practice number 4.